Radiant and Resilient is about mindset and faith to break paradigms and overcome challenges in our life. Because when the mind, body, and spirit are aligned, we literally radiate from the inside out. I'm Kay Vasquez. Let's dive in.
I'm curious, what does health mean to you? I got to thinking about the definition of health, especially after a conversation that I had with my father. I realized that most people think they are healthy, but in reality, there's things that are happening at a microscopic level physically, but also mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that is affecting our health. So I wanted to dive into what is health? What does health mean to me? But first, I want to share the definition of health. So the definition of health is the absence of disease, or according to the dictionary, the state of being free from illness or injury, or a person's mental or physical condition, which is kind of vague. But anyway, let's go back to the absence of disease and break down the word disease. It's basically two parts, dis and ease, meaning the body is not functioning with ease, right? And so when we think about health, a lot of us think about the physical condition of our body. So when I ask my clients, for example, what is the outcome they wish to achieve with their health? Most people respond, I want to have energy. I want to feel my best. That is the common response that I get. And most of the time it refers to the physical condition of the body, because when clients are coming to me, they don't feel their best. Most clients have fatigue, headaches, bloating, gut issues. They also have period problems, a lot of cramps, period irregularities. Sometimes they have trouble conceiving. But also some of my clients are experiencing mental and emotional things. The common is anxiety and depression. So we have to think about not just the physical state of our body, but the mental, the emotional, and even the spiritual state of our body. When it comes to health, there's so many things that are affecting our physical, our mental, our emotional, and our spiritual health. One thing that completely affects our physical health is the food that we eat, as well as getting quality quantity sleep. And also, are we adapting to stress? So if you haven't yet, I have recorded a couple episodes on sleep and tips to support our adrenals, support our nervous system to adapt to stress. And I will link those into the show notes to go listen to after this episode. But I highly recommend listen to those if you haven't yet. But in the next episode, I'm going to dive into a little bit more about food, because another conversation I had with my mom sparked the next episode to dive into more about food and becoming aware of the quality of food that we're eating. But in the meantime, I really want you to reflect on, what does health mean to you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? If you're not driving, if you're in a quiet, still place, I recommend writing it down. What does health mean to you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? For me, it's feeling strong. It's feeling energized. It's feeling my best, being able to wake up and just feel good. My muscles are soft and relaxed, but also strong. So if I need to pick up something, if I need to move very fast, very quickly, I can do that, especially now that I have a daughter who is growing very quickly. Soon she's going to be running around the house. So I want to have the energy. I want to have the strength to be able to keep up with her, to play with her. And mentally, my health is thinking positively and having an awareness of how my thoughts are impacting how I feel emotionally, how my body feels physically. So that is mental health. And emotional health is experiencing more joy, more peace, more gratitude, more fruits of the spirit. And that's also spiritually as well. Spiritually, my health looks like more prayer time, more quiet stillness, conversations with God. I am choosing God's will over mine. I am allowing myself to receive the fruits of the Spirit, especially when I am able to shift out of fear, shift out of doubt or anxiety, whatever I'm feeling emotionally. It starts with capturing our thoughts and becoming aware of them and shifting them, shift the perspective, which then changes how we feel and changes how we show up and how we do things. For me, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health is just being an embodiment of love, joy, peace, and gratitude to the point that it's just overflowing and I'm radiating from the inside out because I not only feel my best physically, but also mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. That is what health means to me. It's so much deeper than I just want to have more energy or I just want to feel my best. Well, what does that look like? What does that feel like? It's just understanding that the joy, the peace, the gratitude, all of that comes from within. When I focus on filling my cup first, and that's another aspect of health, filling my cup first. So I make sure I prioritize my sleep because when I prioritize my sleep, I feel good physically, but also mentally, emotionally more regulated and able to respond more calmly and make different decisions and recognize I have a choice versus if I don't get the best quality sleep, then I'm easily triggered. I also don't feel my best. I'm exhausted. I'm achy. I can experience a migraine. So I focus on the foundations of supporting myself physically, which can also support myself mentally by getting the best quality quantity sleep that I can get, regulating my nervous system and supporting my adrenals, as well as exercising, moving my body, consuming whole quality, nutrient dense foods, and then spending time in prayer, strengthening my relationship with God, surrendering control, which is not easy. I have an episode on that as well, because it can be easy if we have the right tools. Because I know for me, for the longest time, when it came to supporting myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, supporting myself physically was easy. I had systems in place, beliefs, and that's important too. The thoughts, the beliefs we have about ourselves can impact our health. So that's why it's so important to really dive into these pieces. When you focus on on the mental health, what are the thoughts that you have about yourself? And how is it affecting you physically? Because it's so important. If you speak negatively about yourself, notice how your body responds. The words that you say about yourself, are they giving you energy? Are they making you tired? Is it giving you strength or is it making you feel weak? Do you feel light or does it make you feel heavy? So tune into that because words are energy and the energy impacts every cell in our body. So that's why just eating the right foods, exercising, getting sleep isn't enough. We have to tune into our thoughts, the thoughts that we have about ourselves. In fact, it reminds me of a client that I worked with a while back who said she thought she was a positive person. And as we started working together, she started becoming aware of the thoughts that she had about herself. And her husband even pointed out one day that she was being negative, which triggered her. But then she realized that he was right. She wasn't negative about other people or circumstances in her life. She was being so negative about herself and her health because she was trying to conceive for 4 years, was unsuccessful, gained weight, wasn't feeling her best, was tired, exhausted, bloated. She had so many physical issues and she was just so negative towards herself, beating herself up. And she didn't realize how that was impacting her because she was negative towards herself. She actually ended up reacting towards her husband and her son. And so as she became aware of the thoughts and started shifting her thoughts to more positive thoughts about herself and her health, like really just acknowledging her body and the intelligence that's within, loving her body, loving her period, because every time she would get a period, she was disappointed. Instead of being disappointed, she had a renewed sense of hope because that meant that there was a chance that she could get pregnant. So she started to shift her thoughts, her perspective around having her period, around her health, which then shifted how she felt physically in her body and helped her to make the lifestyle changes necessary to maintain long term. In fact, she actually just reached out a couple weeks ago at the end of 2024 because I started working with her January 2024. Her New Year's resolution was to get healthy again. And her intention while working together was to feel energized, to feel her best, to be happy. She not only worked on making the physical changes with her diet and optimizing her sleep and incorporating movement, but also she was able to shift her thoughts. And within 2 months of working together, she got pregnant. And of course, naturally, all the fears, all the thoughts came up of possible miscarriage because she had miscarried in the last 4 years of trying to conceive. So she was worried. She had all the fear, all the doubts, all the anxiety, all that came up. The thoughts were coming in because she was afraid she would miscarry, which is completely natural. I even had those thoughts with my first pregnancy, even though I never had a miscarriage before, but just hearing the stories of other women, those thoughts are going to come in. But we don't have to give them energy. It's because our subconscious mind just wants to protect us. Because if it does happen, of course, it's going to bring up a lot of sadness, a lot of grief, a lot of emotions we don't want to feel, right? And so if you had a miscarriage, my heart goes out to you. And I truly believe that there is a reason why it happens. And that's probably for another episode. But I worked with her to shift her focus on gratitude for her body and for the strength of her body, the health that she was creating to be able to create a life and sustain a life within her. And after we worked together for 3 months, I didn't hear from her. So I had no idea how the rest of her pregnancy went. Then she reached out to me at the end of 2025 saying how the tools she learned are not just supporting herself physically, but mentally and emotionally, spiritually, she continued to use throughout pregnancy and now postpartum because she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, sent me a beautiful picture of her. And my heart just swelled with so much joy for her. And I realized it wasn't all me. It was God that was guiding me to guide her, to support her on her journey, to give her the tools that she could continue to have an incredible, beautiful pregnancy. And now postpartum, which was a whole completely different experience than the first time. That's why it is so important to think about our health, because it's not just the physical things. It's not just changing our diet and exercising or getting good quality sleep. It's also tuning into mentally, emotionally, spiritually. How are we feeling? What are we thinking? What's our relationship with God? Because if we're not tuning into those pieces, we don't have our health. We can be doing all the right things, but we're still not going to have our health. Our health encompasses all those pieces, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. So I'd love to hear from you after you've had some time to reflect on what is health. What does health mean to you? I'd love to hear from you. Please share with me on Instagram at the Kate Vasquez. And after doing a reflection, you realize I don't have my health in one or more areas, and you would like support and guidance supporting you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Let's chat. Book a connection call with me. I want to hear more about your journey, and let's explore how I can support you optimizing your health, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Because if you're just focusing on one, you're missing out on the bigger picture. You're missing out on a truly incredible life because you don't have your health. From my personal experience and from so many other beautiful clients that I have the honor to serve, if it is in alignment, I'd love to be that guide for you. So book a connection call. In the meantime, tune into the next episode because, as I mentioned, I have so much more to share, especially when it comes to focusing on the quality of food. So until then, I hope this episode has inspired you to think about health from a different perspective so that you can continue this journey of being radiant and resilient.